Can you hear me? Hello.
That's fine. Hello, I'm Audrey Tang, Taiwan's Digital Minister in charge of social innovation and open government.
じゃあまず日本の好きなところってどんなところでしょうか？
I think Japan is in the future, literally 1 hour in the future from Taiwan. And I think my mind has pinned Japan in a very futuristic place.
台湾のデジタル担当閣僚オードリー・タン39歳。この日大学で行われたオードリーさんの講演会。会場は多くの学生で埋め尽くされていました。
他是我非常憧憬的对象，对，把替台湾开发很多东西这样子，对，所以
哇，他一进来就有一种气场，对，让你深深的被他吸引着，然后想赶快听他开始演讲这样子，对。
オードリーさんは8歳からプログラミングの独学を始め、19歳で渡米。その後、アップル社で人工知能Siriの開発に携わりました。35歳という若さで台湾のデジタル担当閣僚に就任。身体的な特徴は男性、自身が認識する性は女性であると語り、台湾で初めてトランスジェンダーを公表した閣僚です。オードリーさんを一躍有名にしたのがこのマスクマップ。新型コロナウイルスの感染が拡大し始めた今年2月、市民のエンジニアらとともに全6000カ所以上の販売拠点でマスクの在庫が3分ごとに自動更新されるアプリをわずか3日で開発しました。台湾のデジタル政策を牽引するオードリーさんの手腕は世界から注目されています。
In Taiwan, because we are caught between the Eurasian plate on one side and the Philippine Sea plate on the other. They bump into each other all the time. We have a lot of earthquakes. Because of that, our buildings are designed to be resilient, like boats that can survive the kind of earthquake that we go through. We're caught between, for example, authoritarian intelligence on one side and surveillance capitalism on the other, and how to resist falling into either direction, but can instead, like the top of Taiwan, the Yushan Mountain, grows 2.5 centimeters every year because of the earthquakes. That's upwing, not left wing, and not right wing, and that's Taiwan's future.
日本にないこの台湾の良いところってどういうところにありますか？
I think in Taiwan, we have 20 national languages. We are a transcultural republic of citizens, so we have 20 or more different cultures. We have to work in a very transcultural fashion instead of just one model of democracy.
民主主義に決まった形はない。オードリーさんが提唱するデジタル民主主義とはどのようなものなのでしょうか？
If IT connects machines to machines, digital connects people to people. In the days of radio and television, one person or two can speak to millions of people, but there's no way to listen to millions of people through radio and television. Internet with its digital technologies enable us not only listening to millions of people, but also millions of people to listen to one another, and that deepens democracy. The reason why to have a new type of democracy is because the way people communicate to people are changing. Nowadays, everyone with this kind of video conference is already exchanging megabytes or even gigabytes of information literally every day. And so democracy needs to also increase its bandwidth. Otherwise, people will feel that democracy is actually very irrelevant.
政府の閣僚でありながら、日々オードリーさんは市民と SNS を通じて気軽にやり取りを重ねています。
in Taiwan, we're making the distinction between media literacy, which is just about viewing and reading media, and media competence, which is everyone have the capacity to produce media and produce journalism. So while you're filming this conversation, we are also filming it in our own studio, our own YouTube channel, and so on. So in a sense, we are also media producers, and each of our citizens are too.
デジタル技術が人々の生活にいろいろ自由に与える一方、無責任な情報も蔓延していると思うんですね。
In ancient times, if you have a idea, you can share it with people only when you can meet them face to face. Nowadays, of course, ideas spread much faster, and ideas travel on outrage that spreads even faster than ideas based on evidence and science. So, of course, it is a concern. However, outrage is not all bad. It's only bad if you turn outrage into revenge or into discrimination. If you turn outrage into a spirit of co-creation, then that leads a society forward. So the question is not to ask, how do we limit the outrage? The question is to ask, how can we invite people who are outraged to feel the joy of co-creation? I think what the SNS must do is to show that they are pro-social and not just anti-social. Just like any community space, if they enable only antisocial behavior, then it will become a net negative to the society. I think social networks need to make this pro-social value part of their mission and also work with the market so that these two bottom lines work together.
しかし SNS などの情報技術は高齢者には難しく、デジタルディバイドの問題もあります。
I think the aged people are the ones with the most wisdom, and we need to bring technology to them rather than asking them to adapt to technology. So in Taiwan, when we're rationing out the mask, for example, it's the 6,000 or more pharmacies that already have the trust from their local neighborhoods, and we designed the process to be essentially the same as renewing the prescription of a chronic illness, which is what most elderly people or their friends have some familiarity with.
台湾ではマスクの購入時に健康保険証を提示することが義務付けられました。実名制販売を行い、買い占めをなくすことで人々に過不足なくマスクを提供することができたのです。日頃から健康保険証をよく使っている高齢者にも馴染みやすい制度でした。さらにオードリーさんは自身の SNS でマスクの洗浄法などコロナ対策の動画をアップしました。台湾の公用語は北京語。しかし高齢者の中には北京語を理解できない人もいます。SNS を活用して高齢者にも分かりやすいよう台湾語を使って説明しました。
If you design it with an idea of participatory design, then there is no digital gap. I think the most important idea is intergenerational solidarity. So to build meaningful connections with the very young and the very old, that is the most important part.
你比较能够去倾听别人，比较能够去了解别人，之后就很可能就是你的原创的思考，就是从这种迷惘的感觉里面出现了。
2020年、新型コロナウイルスの影響でいやおうなく加速したデジタル化の波。今やオンライン上でコミュニケーションを取ることは当たり前になりつつあります。これからの未来をオードリーさんはどのように見ているのでしょうか。
I think it will bring a stronger sense of co-presence. When I have the first VR interview 4 years ago with people who are in the middle school and primary school, I set my avatar to be the same height as they are. so we can meet eye to eye in their familiar places without them having to look up to me. So I literally put myself in their shoes.
このバーチャルの空間で一緒にいるっていう感覚があると思うんですけど、その中でこう多様性っていった問題はどのように変化していくと思いますか？
Well, what I think is that it will enable more intersectionality, meaning that people who previously feel that they are in the minority can go online and find the people who support them, who have similar experiences, like I personally went through 2 puberties that enable me to empathize with more people, and also through the spirit of intersectionality, people who are majority in other places may nevertheless think of their own experience in the minority being supported and support the causes of the minorities in their advantaged or privileged parts of life.
空間や性別という垣根が次々と取り払われていくというデジタルの未来。オードリーさんは人の死生観にも大きな変化が生まれるといいます。
I think there's 2 ways I can answer this question. The first one is that, of course, because the digital can be replicated freely, this enables a kind of immortality, because once you have published your life, parts of your life, to the commons, then in a sense your life will live on. The second part of answer is that, however, because in the commons it enabled other people to remix, to reinterpret, and so on, in a sense this is not your life that is immortal. It is just your life as the creative material for the future generations to use. That human civilization is truly immortalized thanks to the digital technology, not an individual's life, but a cultural life.
なるほど。こうデジタルで生きるっていうことについて選択してくる人も今後出てくると思われますか？
I'm already listening to your questions in a digital way, not an analog way. And you're seeing me as the digital minister, not the analog digital minister. So it's not a question of how far in the future. We are living that future now.
デジタルの力で民主主義をアップデートしてきたオードリーさん。しかし現在、ブレグジットやアメリカ大統領選など民主主義の根幹ともいえる選挙で分断が生まれているという指摘もあります。今、民主主義に明るい未来はあるのでしょうか。
Democracy is a technology. The limit of the current form of democracy is because it was designed in a time when the most efficient way to get information from the people is through paper ballots, through voting, and through calls with telephones and so on. And each of these technologies, of course, are great, but none of them enables listening at scale. So, like any technology, you can introduce new innovations. If people think democracy only as something that happens every 2 or 4 years, then of course people will gradually lose interest. What I'm saying is that we need to make it festive. We're not saying that, hey, let's hold a general election every 24 hours. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that look into the everyday practices that you're already doing and introduce more democratic elements to it.
そして新しい民主主義を日常にするためにはデジタルの力が必要だというのです。
Then, of course, people who have previously been excluded from the conversation will feel even more excluded when a decision about them is done without them. But instead of decisions, you can start by asking, what are some common thoughts, some common feelings, some common personal experiences, some common evidences? I think is much more ripe to a feeling of solidarity for the society to discover that despite our different positions and ideologies, we actually, all of us, share some common values.
その分断している壁がすごく高く厚く感じちゃう時があるんですけど、そ その壁の向こう側にどういうふうに呼びかければいいでしょうか。
Well, just trust the citizens. If the government trusts the citizens, then citizens become trustworthy. It's called the Pygmalion effect. And if the government are afraid of citizens and set up walls to distance themselves from citizens, then of course citizens become not trusting, not only of the government, but also of each other. And so either side is a self-fulfilling prophecy. One side leads to deepening of democratization, and the other side leads to higher walls and to authoritarianism, or maybe totalitarianism. To give no trust is to get no trust. When the work is done right, with no fuss, with no boasting, citizens will say, oh, we did it. Live long and prosper. Bye.